that negativity that lives inside you, that deep pit. We all have it, right? And the journey here in life is to figure out a way to get it out because it's not serving you. It's only pulling you down. Welcome to the Sales Made Simple podcast. This podcast is dedicated to helping overwhelmed outdoor living professionals, landscapers, and hardscapers just like you increase your closing rate to over 75% without doubling your workload so you can build a seven-figure business that doesn't need you. I'm your host, Joshua Gillow. Let's dig in. Hey, everybody. Welcome back. Chris is here with us again, Chris Cooper. And last week we talked about his framework of the compass and exactly how to integrate it into your business and into your life. We got into a lot of deep content last week. So if you didn't listen to that, stop back over and take a listen. But this week we're going to jump into freedom, what it looks like in a business when that business finally serves you and serves your life. And Chris and I, before we were ready to hit go here, he started to talk and started to share a little bit about his story. And I'd love for him to start with that because it was really powerful. And I want your listeners to hear, because I know there's a lot of you out there, or at least one of you out there that can relate to this. Go ahead, Chris.
Cool. Yeah, it's, Josh had asked me if I was enjoying doing this, and I am. And the reason that I am, well, I enjoy talking about the business and stuff. I mean, so I'll geek out on that all day long. But really, the reason that I enjoy what I'm doing with Vine and Compass especially, but, where I've been the last few years and what I'm about to do now is there's power in your story, in your testimony, right? And so for years, for my whole life, nobody knew me. Nobody knew the real Chris. Nobody. Because I had Shadow Chris, and that was kind of a wall that I hid behind, and I let people see whatever I wanted them to see, right?
Yep.
So that was born out of a youth that was worse than a kid should have to go through. My biological father was absent prior to me even knowing him. We barely have a cordial relationship even yet today. Why? I don't know. I never could get that out of him. So mom's first stepdad was a tunnel rat in Vietnam, and he had a whole host of psychological issues that he had brought home and did his best to transfer them on to the rest of us. It was a hard life to live. He was just very strict and he was cruel. So mom ended up leaving him, thankfully, but married a guy that was verbally abusive. So a whole different set of things that you had to learn to live with. And so, I was pretty broken when I escaped and enlisted in the Marine Corps. My second stepfather had forced me to go to college because he wasn't going to be ashamed of any stepson that decided he didn't want to go to college. So I got about halfway through the semester, hated it, was barely going, and I dropped out and enlisted and didn't tell him anything until right before I was getting ready to leave. That was my escape. That was my escape out. And, it's one of those things that you see God's fingerprints on your life, right? We talked in an earlier episode about how I didn't realize it at the time, but the Marine Corps was giving me peace through that structure, right? And that's just one of the amazing ways that it happened. So, without going through, an hour and a half of talking about it, I came out of the military with military trauma on top of my childhood trauma. And we'll leave that there for now. I spent the next 30 years of my life. I spent the first half of that 30 years numbing, just trying to look for whatever would make life feel better. Sex, drugs, rock and roll, whatever, for that first half of those 30 years. Numbing all the pain of everything that had happened to me from birth to young adulthood. And then I kind of flipped a switch in the second half of that 15. I started numbing the pain and regret of the wasted years that I'd had in the first half of that, right? So, I created this issue, but now I'm lamenting this issue. And that's how I spent the next 30 years. And it wasn't until I hit my knees. Well, we'll back up very slightly. I burnt my life to the ground in 2017 and left the green industry And I think I talked about this a little bit ago. It was something that I thought I needed to do, but I didn't realize yet that I was burned out on myself more than I was burned out on any job. And so I spent the better part of 2018 trying to do it on my own, and it was not working. And for people that do end up knowing me, I'll share those sordid details. Some of them would probably straighten your hair and curl your toes. But I was just not living a godly life in the slightest.
Hmm.
But trying to do it all on my own. And so in 2018, just right after Christmas, I absolutely hit my knees and surrendered for the first time ever in my life. I grew up in the church, but I totally fell away from it. And it was just very much this, it was a surface church back then. It
Hmm.
was just where my stepfather had us going so that we looked like successful members of the community or whatever. That's what he was all about. So at any rate, it's not like everything changed overnight, but there was a definite shift. I met my current wife, definitely an answer to a prayer. Really started trying to devote my time and effort to making myself what I had discovered was my new positive statement in therapy, and that is that I could make myself a new man in Christ.
Hmm.
And that really only comes from surrender and
Yep.
giving it over. And I had always done that thing where it's like, God, I'll take care of this, you take care of that. Right? That doesn't work, as it turns out. So I hit my knees there in the winter of 2018. And from then, it has been trending upwards. I'll say it that way because much like the stock market goes up for a while and then it goes down for a bit and then up for a little bit more and then
Hmm.
down and then up. And so that's kind of what it was like for the first 4 or 5 years. So I hit my knees again in 2023 because I had been doing that thing where I said, God, if you will just take all of this off of me, I told you about this earlier, I'll handle this stuff over here, right? I just
Right.
wasn't surrendering everything. And so finally in 2023, I said, I've had enough. And it was nothing short of miraculous in the way that I struggled less from that point moving forward. Life
Hmm.
felt better to me kind of naturally. And so that was a great, great experience. And I have had a few supernatural experiences over the years that have left me with no mistake of where my peace and my joy and my success come from now. And I have worked hard, but it's not my work, right?
That's right.
Not my work to complete. So all I'm going to do is allow the work to be completed through me. And Vine and Compass is the vehicle for sharing that.
I love that. I love that, brother. And it's a powerful testimony, and I think God gives us all testimonies. And as you were mentioning before, that you kept a lot of that kind of hidden, right? So what was it like to let that out? You mentioned like 5 years ago, or so you kind of let that out and started showing the real side of you. What did that transition look like for you? And what was the
Well, that
what was
the
the
first
reason for
time
doing it?
the first time I shared my whole story was actually in 2023.
Oh wow, okay.
And I was God absolutely will blow your mind if you just sit back and listen, pay attention. So
Amen.
through all this brokenness, sorry about that, through all this brokenness, I found myself facilitating, or no, this was the first time I wasn't facilitating yet. I was going through, our church has a program called Rooted. And it's really just kind of a deeper dive into the basics of who God is and what he's all
Mhm.
about. And then it's about connection because you'll connect with some people and we're a big church. And so that's nice to get that level of connection. So in that rooted course, everybody takes a turn telling their life story. And I had never told it. So God laid upon my heart that now is the time. And so I wrote everything out and shared that story and did it almost immediately thereafter, right before the Dayton show last year for Synced
Mhm.
Up with my
Mhm.
team members. And I've never shared anything about my personal self with any team people in any position over my life. And what I have discovered is that there is what I discovered is that telling my story was helping me heal, but it was also helping other people heal.
Mm, that's right.
And that was a concept I hadn't quite grasped yet, that, the sharing of your story and the impact that it has on both sides of that equation. And so I then ended up facilitating rooted classes, which I still do through our church. And in that course now, I share my story, and there's even some more details with them. I used to be ashamed of all that.
Yep.
I used to keep that stuff bottled up, locked away,
Mm,
didn't want to let anybody know about it. But
yep.
as I have shared it, it has helped people and it has helped me
I love that.
because the
You do. Mhm. Yep. Yep.
it's a
Absolutely.
matter of believing is stepping out in faith. Just say, Lord, I trust you with this.
Yep. Man, I appreciate you sharing that, and I hope it lands on you listeners the way that even hearing a story for the first time landed on me. And there's something powerful, so powerful about a man that will share his story, share his testimony, take all the masks off and share the truth. When you do that, the enemy that's trying to keep all of that in you to make you feel like you're less than or that you're broken in some way, all that starts to shed off of you. When you finally start to just bring words to it and to share it with somebody else, you don't live on that island anymore. That's what my experience was. All my miss steps throughout my life, all the ups and the downs, the vices, all of those things over the years, and the wanting to do everything myself and through my own strength, all of those things eventually led to me uh, about the same time as you, right in 2023, finding Christ, right, and just and jumping right in and feeling a completely different experience in life. And I say all this because our conversation today is around what freedom looks like, right? And there's no higher freedom than to what Chris was talking about, sharing a story and letting that pressure off, because the devil wants you to believe. He deals in the currency of shame,
Yep.
and shame means you're broken, means there's no way to fix you. You're broken.
What's
Yep. There.
done is done, right?
Yep.
Like
Yep.
that's it, but it's in a negative connotation.
Yeah, and there's no way to fix it. It's an unsolvable problem. You're just fucked, right? You're broken. And there's a big difference between
It's a
shame and
biblical
guilt.
term for all you listeners out there.
Yep,
Sorry if it's
yep.
a little nitty for you.
It's in the
So
book of Chris. Anyway,
you said it. Why can't it be in the book of Oh, there's already a book of Joshua. Never mind.
exactly. I can't add anything to it. I figured we'd add extra
You
one.
got off scot free there, man.
I know.
So
I see. See how I did that? Anyway, but when it comes to guilt, the guilt is that I made a mistake. It's okay. Not that I am a mistake. Shame wants you to think that you are a mistake. And that's a choice you'll have to make, and what voice you're listening to, right, inside of you. And when you share your story, you not only get it off and out of you, you're letting that potential, not always, but that potential poison or toxicity out by sharing. You're also empowering all the people around you to freedom. Because when you're like, hey, Chris just shared this thing on a podcast, man, some of that was my life too.
yeah.
Now I feel more empowered to go out and talk to somebody else. Maybe it's my wife, maybe it's a best friend, maybe it's my journal, just to start having a conversation. Maybe it's a pastor, to start letting some of that out that's holding you back. Then you know what I'm talking about, listeners, that negativity that lives inside you, that deep pit. We all have it, right? And the journey here in life is to figure out a way to get it out, because it's not serving you. It's only pulling you down. And all that weight and all of those negative voices in your head aren't of God by any means. This is all of the enemy. So I love the transition and segue from that into what freedom looks like in a business when the business is finally serving your life, Chris. So how does that look for you now with this new shift?
Well, now, when I look at it through this new lens, and I kind of touched on it a little bit in the last episode, we talked a lot about clarity, right?
Yep.
And in this particular case, the freedom is, knowing who you are, and then through systems and processing, knowing what's yours to carry and not carrying anything else. And that can be very metaphorical in life too, right? Carry only what you need to carry. The stuff that you cannot influence and doesn't matter. Don't carry that load. 10 years ago, I thought what was mine to carry was money and working for myself. I think that's
Mm,
what we
mm,
talked about in the last one,
yep.
you know. And now I want everything that I do to, and I'd like to be this pious guy that says I want to do everything to serve the glory of the Lord. So I am grateful that what I do hopefully will serve the glory of the Lord. But what I ultimately want to do is just make folks' lives around me better by shining light into their lives. And sometimes that light is a conversation about that budget. And
Mm,
sometimes that light is, hey, your business is really busy. How's your marriage?
mm,
Right? That's a portion of this business that we don't ever really pay as much attention to. There's at least of the one of thinking heads out there that when you ask them, where do you find the balance in life? Their answer is, what balance? Or there is no balance, or something
mm,
along those lines. That is indicative of what this industry has become in our own minds, this all consuming heavy weight that we carry that makes us miserable 2/3 of the time. And, it's just grind, grind, grind day in and day out. I don't know how many times over the last year I've heard guys say things like, man, I just got to work for somebody else because man, it'd just be a lot less headaches, you know?
mhm.
No, that's not why. We have to get back in front of why we did this to begin with, you know?
So what was one moment in your life and your journey when you realized that your business had started to serve your life?
Honestly, it did not happen until I left traditional roles and started working at building up other people's lives.
Mm,
And I told that story, I think, back in the first episode that, Synced Up started filling a tank in me and awakened something in me that I did not realize that I had, right?
yeah.
All of a sudden, I discovered my purpose and my meaning. And it was very clear to me at that point. That was great. And there will be people that are out here listening to me and they're like, does that mean I have to get out of the industry to find my peace and purpose? Absolutely not. I can point you in the direction of more than a handful of people that this is their peace and purpose. And
Yep.
most of us are here because it is our passion project anyway. We love what we do. So, this part of it that is chewing us up and spitting us out, that is not, I mean, my opinion, it's not of this world, but that's not what's important. All the stuff that's chewing you up is not what's important. So to go back to points that Joshua has made, you know, figure out where you want to be. Set your compass to where you want to be. Start letting that pull you forward because that's the only way that you're going to get there.
Yep.
And then you can add let go and let God, right?
Yep. Yep.
That you cannot go wrong. The Holy Spirit won't lie to you. So
Yep.
just learn to listen. I haven't yet quite as well as I'd like,
Mm.
but it'll get you there.
Oh yeah. It's something that we need as humans is a compelling future. It's what gets us out of bed every day. It what keeps us moving forward. Progress equals happiness to most people, right? So having a compelling future, visualize what that might look like. Pray about it. Figure out what that looks like. And then when you align your work with pointing you in that progress direction, that's when freedom really starts to take root. It's when you have
Yes.
that clarity again. We'll go back to that word because it is so important. We've mentioned it many times in these episodes, but it is the center of most everything. It's what gets us stuck is when we have a lack of it. And it's
Mm.
what gets us through when we have a lot of clarity around that, right? Clarity around
Yeah.
clarity. You like that? We're doubling it up now. So, so Chris, for the man out there listening who's still in the grind, still trying to improve himself, what's your challenge to him right now um, about how or what real freedom would look like? Like, what's your challenge for him right now to start thinking about what that could mean for him?
Well, we have dove deep enough on this that I can be 100% transparent in my belief here. The biggest challenge that I have to anybody listening is stop trying to earn what can only be received, right? You don't have to do something to get something. Freedom isn't found at the end of exhaustion or the grind. It's built inside of discipline, structure, and grace. The grind will take everything you give it and then some, always, without question, and will
Mm,
ask for more. At some point, you have to decide really what deserves the rest of your life. And that becomes your future point that you start working toward.
Yeah.
That's my challenge.
True. It's true. Chris, so I've enjoyed these last few weeks with you talking about these different topics. If I'm a
Likewise.
listener and I want to reach out to you because I'd love to hear about your program, actually, why don't we do this? Why don't you tell us a little bit about your program and then how people can connect with you if they want some support, some help from somebody who's obviously been through it?
All right. So the Cliff Notes version is that the entry level point into the Vine and Compass multiverse is just monthly. It's kind of a monthly subscription, and it involves weekly conversations. I don't like monthly or quarterly. I think that weekly is where you find meaning in what you're doing and you don't lose momentum. I have a lot of resources available. I have there will there are retreats and some seminar speaking and that sort of thing that is also an option. But for the guy out there that's really grinding and trying to figure out, where he's going, what's this all mean? What's it all about? You know, he can reach me at chris@vineandcompass.com. That's all one word, vineandcompass.com. chris@vineandcompass.com. And that also lets you know what my website is, vineandcompass.com. Don't judge me for my cheap website because content is far more important than how pretty it looks.
That's right. That's right. That's for
Absolutely.
sure. So, Chris, do you have anything else you want to share with our listeners here before we wrap up? Any nuggets or stuff you've learned along the journey that has really shifted more toward the freedom model for you?
No, the biggest nugget is it does not have to be this consuming fire, this business. It does not have to be that way. There
Uh-huh.
is absolutely a better way. Even if your faith walk is something that you're not ready to talk about right now, the business principles still absolutely stand, right?
Yep.
You still have to be intentional about what you're doing. So that's my advice to everybody out there.
I love it. Well, thank you, Chris, for coming on. Thank you for sharing your heart, your soul, and your testimony with us. And listeners, I hope you got as much from these episodes as I did because I'm always learning, and I love my brother Chris here. He's a good man. He's doing great work out there. So,
Love you too,
brother,
man.
yeah, it's good stuff. So, listeners, we'll talk to you next week.
What if you could close 75% of your projects without chasing, convincing, or dropping your price? That's not a dream, that's the mission. Mission 75. Here at Yes Express Sales Academy, we are spearheading a bold shift to help outdoor living contractors sell with confidence, not desperation. Because let's be real, you've been told to just give them a good price and hope for the best. You've been trained to beg for work and give away your time and compete with contractors who don't even play at your level. That ends now. I wrote the Core 10 Sales Playbook because it's the system I desperately needed 20 years ago. It's built for real-world, design-build contractors, not guys in suits. Inside, I'll show you how to qualify leads in minutes, speak to emotion, not features, cut confusion and eliminate ghosting, lead the sales call with calm authority, and close premium jobs without flinching. That book drops in January 2026. Check out the show notes to get on the list to be the first in line to grab your copy of the Core 10 Sales Playbook before they're gone. This isn't about working harder, it's about selling smarter, and it starts now. Let's raise the standard together.